Hello, good evening. Welcome. This is Hot Edition. We're live. My news up here at Desawe Kanda. Also live on 3FM 92.7 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also listen to us all across the world at 3news.com. We're live on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. Also live on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. Coming up this evening here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. All is set for the governing New Patriotic Party's Super Delegates Conference in all 16 regions across the country. This evening on Hot Edition, we preview the election process plus engage some experts on the exercise seeking to whittle down the numbers for the ruling party seeking to break the 8 electoral cycle. Also, the Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, petitions the Education Ministry to, as a matter of urgency, convene a national dialogue on the sustainability of the free senior high school policy. This is after the TV3 3FM National Dialogue on the free senior high school program. Still in the bulletin this evening, ECOWAS continues to mull over a possible intervention in troubled Niger Republic. Ghana's Deputy Defense Minister says the bloc has a capability to take on the military junta. All these plus the latest in business, sports, and entertainment coming over the next 60 minutes here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Welcome, I am Alfred Ocansey. Let's get into the details now here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. And we're also receiving information from the Ashanti region that members of the Ghana Union of Trade Association GUTA in the Ashanti region are warning of an imminent massive demonstration against government, which will also lead to the closure of all shops of their members. Now, this is to protest against what they describe as harassment and discrimination by customs officials over the payment of what they've described as exorbitant charges, which their members in other regions do not experience. According to them, after clearing their goods at the ports, they are made to pay other charges while transporting their goods to the Ashanti region. They add that as a result of this, some of their members have been arrested and treated unfairly. Contained in the statement, they indicate that if government wants those in the Ashanti region of GUTA to stop doing business, they should tell them. In that case, those in the Ashanti region who have the capital to relocate to Accra will go to Accra and Kumasi will become empty. This is because they have a 40-footer container and someone taking it to a Bosokai, nothing will happen to that person. But for the GUTA members who are plying their trade in Kumasi, they pay a higher transportation cost, which has to contend with 4 custom barriers even before they get to Kumasi. And the traders say that despite engaging with relevant authorities on the matter, the situation persists as the Ashanti region is becoming an unfavorable environment for doing business in recent times. This is something that we're keeping a close eye on and will definitely be updating you as we go on, and the resolve by the traders. But let's go straight to our Election Command Center here on 3FM 92.7, and all is set and ready for tomorrow's Super Delegates Conference of the governing New Patriotic Party. 10 aspirants are putting themselves up to lead the NPP as its flag bearer in the next general elections. Kennedy Japan, Alan Kojo Chamanting, Joe Gate, Kojo Poku, Dr. Efria Koto, Kobane Japan, Francis Adainimo, Dr. Kofi Kunedo Apreko, Boache Jakon, and Dr. Mahmoud Obama are hoping to make the cut of 5 expected to go on to the November 4 for the party's presidential primaries. Director of Elections of the NPP, that's Evans Nemako, tells 3FM 92.7 that all is set for the conference tomorrow.
The New Patriotic Party put together the OK's committee to be in charge with the conduct of the presidential elections. Part of the process is the conduct of this special electoral college. God's willing, by Saturday, the delegates will meet in all the regional voting centers as well as the party headquarters. We are ready. We've put in charge, in terms of security, the National Police Service. In terms of the conduct of the exercise, is the Electoral Commission. The committee has reached this decision and this position because we've had very constructive, consultative engagement with the aspirants and their agents, with the Electoral Commission, as well as the Ghana Police Service. We expect that on Saturday, our delegates will do the needful, will comply with the security arrangement put in place, cast their votes at the various centers, and return to their respective areas. And then when it is 1 o'clock, the EC will do the honor of opening the ballot, sorting, counting, and then recording to all the candidates the figures that they would have gotten. The EC will do the overall collation at their headquarters and then come finally to the party office to do what we call the declaration of the first 5 presidential candidates. And so we are set. As we speak, all the ballot papers have reached the regional secretariat of the EC as well as the registers. Aspirants have been given the final voter register. We just finished engagement with them. And so everything is set for the party to conduct this special electoral college.
Well, that's Evans Namakoda. The party has also announced a set of protocols to guide the election process tomorrow, which includes, but not limited to, the annulling of open ballots and no campaign during the process tomorrow. That, however, is being questioned by former Okankwe North Member of Parliament, Fuseni Issa.
I think it's appropriate for the party to say that the ballot has to be secret, and that we've all agreed to it. So I don't see why somebody should vote and have to go out there with their ballot and show it to the world. For us to maintain the secrecy of the ballot, nobody should have the right to be able to take their ballot out there. I think the party in its guidelines came out to say that nobody will be allowed to take a mobile phone in there. And so I don't see, if you don't take a mobile phone in there, how can you actually have a snapshot of a ballot? I really can't see how that is feasible. The danger also is that the party should be careful not to bring out guidelines that it cannot police or insist on. It's a danger to the whole process. How would you say that there should be no campaigning? How are you going to police that? How are you going to ensure that it doesn't happen? That is a danger, and then we should move away from it.
Oh, that's Fuseni Issa there. My colleague Duke Mensah-Poku has been running through the protocols and also how the election process, the super delegates process will take place tomorrow. Duke, good to have you. Now, what does the process really entail for tomorrow?
So what this means, or essentially you have what they call the super delegates voting to prune down the number of aspirants from 10 to 5. This is a constitutional imperative in the sense that it is something that must be done anytime you have an MPP election or a flag bearer election where you have contestants more than 5. In the pre-2007 era, this was not a given, right? So the party decided to do this after the 2007 election, where, of course, in history, even in presidential election history in this country, flag bearership race history, that had the highest number of candidates, 17.
Right, 17.
Yeah, so right after that, they decided that they would expand the party's base out as a result of the number of issues that emerged. Allegations of vote buying, money sharing, we had the Polafoku saga and Rancor and all of that. So the party decided to do some reforms, and out of those reforms, we had this as part of the reform. So you have a greater number of people voting to elect who becomes the main person. But before that, there should be super delegates who would vote to whittle down the number to 5 anytime you have more than 5 candidates. So it takes a source from Article 39 of the NPP Constitution.
And this was after that 2007 episode?
Absolutely, yeah. So after that, you have this is the second time it will be happening. The first time it happened was in 2014, August 2014. There were 7 candidates, had the likes of Adainimo, Jogate, of course, candidate Akufo-Addo then, Alan Trematin, Kofi Kunadu-Apre, Kofi Osai-Amiao, and the likes. So the numbers were whittled down to 5. There was a tie at Dynamo, and Jogati tied on 3rd. Kofi Osamiao came in, but 2 of them dropped out. Then it remained 3. Alan Akufo-Addo and Dynamo. You had Akufo-Addo winning by a huge margin for that matter. So this is the second time it will be happening in the aftermath of the 2007 when that decision was actually taken. So let's run through some of the numbers.
Great.
Right? Yeah. So
I recall that ahead of tomorrow, there were concerns by some of the aspirants whether this election should be done in a decentralized form or a centralized approach, where we have just less than 1,000 super delegates who are going to take part in the elections tomorrow. A number of them were proposing that instead of doing this on a regional base, let's all bring them together at one place and have them do the voting. But eventually the party resolved that it's going to have a decentralized approach.
Yeah, so for the proponents, so that suggestion had proponents and opponents. For the proponents, they did not want a situation where you have a lot of trend analysis coming out of the votes. So for instance, after tomorrow, you would have the political watchers and those of us here on the media doing the analysis, trying to tease out the numbers and drawing linkages and doing a trend analysis to suggest where the main election, which will be on the 4th of November, how it will pan out. The proponents did not want that. They wanted everybody to vote Congress grounds, en bloc, en masse, no whatever. They all vote, and then there is a determination as to what happens with the votes, right? Now, again, you have people coming together, everybody less than, it's just 4 hours, people coming together, do that. There was also a cost argument that when you have everybody together, you don't spend as much as you would in this decentralized manner. That was the argument from the proponents. Now, the opponents, on the other hand, made the argument that you need to decentralize it so that you wouldn't have a situation of camping of delegates. And it's one of the things that was actually highlighted yesterday in the administrative procedures and guidelines that were released, that nobody should camp the delegates, and nobody should take a picture of votes when they go into the booth. Anything that will be detected in that manner would actually be annulled. So the arguments clashed and a decision was taken that it will be decentralized. So it will be one of the major issues going into this election. And of course, the opponents to the proposal would say they've held sway, they've had their day. So tomorrow it will be decentralized across the country, 17 electoral centers or voting centers or polling stations, if you'd like, 16 in each of the regional capitals. And then there's one special voting center at the national headquarters, which will host 204 votes. That has the highest number of votes. And people, they are drawn from the special, what you call the special organs. So you have those from the external branches, those from the special organs. You have ministers of state who are card-bearing members. And people have asked the question about who minister of state. But we've had instances in this country where there are ministers who are not card-bearing members. In the first Kufuor government, you would remember there were the likes of Dr. Endo Moses, Daniba, Malam Issa, who were not, MPP members, but they found their way into government. So I think that's why the party decided to clarify that you need to be a card-bearing minister of state before you did it. So that's how these are the people who make up the regional executives, national council, all of those. These are the people who, and there was even a controversy as to whether the chief of staff had a vote or not. That has been, decided upon. The chief of staff has a vote now. So these are the people who make up the super delegates, as it were. We know in the November 4th, you have thousands of people voting. That will be the expanded electoral base of the party conducting that election. Voting to elect who would lead the party into that 2024 election next year. So the Ashanti region, let's look at now the key battlegrounds. Yeah, the Ashanti region has 119 votes.
119.
Yes, apart from the national headquarters, they come next, right? 119. They're also significant again for the reason that it is the home region of 4 out of the 10 candidates. 6 out of the 10 candidates hail from the Ashanti region, and I'm talking about Alan Trematin, Kwajo Nsafo Apoku, Kwabena Ejeye Japan, Dr. Kofi Kunedu Apreku, your Francis Adainimo, I mentioned Dr. Kofi Kunedu Apreku, Dr. Owusu Efri Akoto. So 6 of them hail from the Ashanti region. That's quite significant, which means that they'll be trying to get, these votes. Next is the Eastern region. Boache Jako hails from the Eastern region. It has 81 votes. Then you come to the Greater Accra region, 72 votes. Then you come to the Central region, where Kennedy Japan is proven to be a massive force to reckon with in this electioneering period. He comes from a region that has 55 votes, and I'm talking about the Central region. Hafo region has 30 votes. Bono has 38, Bono East 33, and Northern 51, Savannah 30, Northeast, where Baumia comes from, has 30 votes, Upper East has 36, Upper West has 32, Volta has 41, Uti has 30, Western has 46, Western North has 33, Greater Accra has 72. So that's how the votes are distributed across the country, Alfred.
Good stuff there. Some very detailed analysis by Duke Mensah-Poku. But going into tomorrow as well, we've seen concerns being raised about vote buying and money being distributed and so on.
Right.
The party also put out that caution in its protocols. But
right.
How responsive has that been to the specific concern of some of these super delegates being possibly compromised? Because we're talking about not just ministers of state, but also party chairmen across the regions, and then also the constituency chairman as well, who are part of the super delegates tomorrow, is it not?
Yeah, so that's one thing that the party has made clear, that they will not countenance any form of corruption, any form of vote buying, any form of delegate campaign, any form of, malfeasance that would throw this, dent the credibility of this process in any way. They've stated categorically clear that they would not countenance that, and if there's a situation where one is found to have, taken a picture of a vote that they've taken a mobile phone into a booth, that vote will be nullified. And they seem to have, been very clear on that. And the camps have been responding to this. They think that the guidelines are okay, but for them, what matters to them is for a strict implementation of the guidelines to be conducted on voting day.
Super. Duke, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Duke Mensah-Poku getting on into the details of the protocols, plus the numbers and the distribution of the various super delegates across 16 regions of the country, and then also that special polling center that would host some 200 super delegates tomorrow at the NPP's headquarters. This is your election command center. Let's stay a bit further on this now. Musa Dankwa is the director of the Global Info Analytics. They've been doing quite some work ahead of the super delegates conference tomorrow. Mr. Dankwa, thank you so much for joining us here on Hot Edition. Now, I see a number of things you've done, including the age profiling of the MPP delegates and so on. What are all of this pointing to from your own initial polls ahead of tomorrow?
I think it's pointing to a normal race, I would call it. Normal race in the sense that it's likely to reflect largely what the delegates have said to us in June when we last did the delegate polls. Even though this is a super delegate, we expect that to be reflected largely in the super delegate, what transpired in the normal delegate poll, which means that we expect Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia to be on top, followed by Alan, and then you have Kennedy Okinye-Ejapon. And then my last two will be Dr. Efri Akoto and Joe Gatti. An outsider for the top 5 would be Kobna Ejapon, but I'm not really counting that he could topple Joe Gatti or Efri Akoto.
I see. So those are the 5 you're picking to go through tomorrow?
Yes.
Based on the poll. But then the likes of Kojo Mensah-Poku say that any poll that does not put him as part of the 5 going through tomorrow, the credibility of those polls should be questioned, because you have no idea what's been going on the ground, the reality of the situation on the ground, especially because these days you cannot trust the word of delegates and take it for it, that indeed that's what's going to happen.
To some extent, he's right by saying that you cannot trust delegates. And it is very unfortunate that in this part of the world, we like the pollsters. We can only stick to what the numbers we have seen. We cannot go into the minds of voters and see whether they're telling the truth or they're lying to us. But I mean, if he is saying that he wants to surprise everybody, it would be good for him to spring up a surprise. That would be very interesting. But from what we have seen and the dynamics of superdelegates, I don't believe he would make it to among the top 5.
But then again, did you also make some allowances for the surprises that you're talking about, especially because of, for instance, what happened in the Asin North by-election, which I had a conversation with you. You were quite sure about a possible outcome based on your engagement with the voters in that constituency. That did not happen, even though you gave a room for some margin of error. In this instance, are you applying some margin of error that will make room for surprises because we cannot trust what delegates say, fear delegates?
Okay, let me first make a correction to what you said earlier on. In the case of Asin North, the poll showed that MPP was leading. But if you read the report we issued the night before the election, we said categorically that even though MP was leading, we expect the person to win. And that was what happened. Now, can we equate what happened to Asin North into this one? You see, Asin North election was general election among all voters. We are talking about super delegates. They are a class of delegates from MPP, all delegates, that are very unique, that are at the top level of the party, government appointees, highly valued delegates. They don't behave like normal delegates. They are different. So on that basis, we believe that those who would do well will be those who have played a role in the government somehow, or played part of this government or the government before. That would have enabled them to have interactions with the government machinery and the people who are going to vote today. That is why the people who have mentioned, except Kennedy Japan, have all been ministers or senior government officials in the past. Baumia is the vice president. He continues to engage those appointees. Alan Chermacheni, former minister of trade under Kufo and under this government until January. So he's had interaction with the government machinery for some time. Kennedy Japan is a lawmaker, a very formidable person within the party. Even though he's never had a government appointment, we believe that is the way that will carry him through. If you look at Afriya Koto, is Minister for Agri for 6 years, had interaction with government machinery and party hierarchy. So he's likely to have had a close contact with these guys, and I believe that could put him on top. The same thing applies to Joe Gatti, as a former Minister of Justice and Attorney General, Deputy Speaker of Parliament, and former Railway Development Minister. He is part of this government and integral part of it until 2022 election. So this is the base on which we are saying that the top 5 will be these people. Now, Kobna Ejekon is formidable within the party, but not sure if that formidability can send to superdelegates. That's the only thing we think could be a surprise if he's able to make it through. But I don't believe so, because he's running as an insurgent candidate in this race, running against the establishment and making pronouncements that seem to suggest that the party hasn't done things correct. And on that basis, I don't think the top hierarchy of the party would reward him by embarking on such a campaign. That's why I'm kind of reluctant to put him at top 5.
If we're using the same factors that you just enumerated, that led to your choice of the 5 that will go through, that, for instance, the persons you chose, a number of them have served in this administration, either the first term or this ongoing second term. How about Boache Jako as well? He was one-time energy minister, right? And
then he how he left the government. You remember the way he left the government? He resigned, and up to date he's making accusations and counter-accusations against some people in the party and in government. That would be his drawback. Even though he was part of it, his chances have been negated by the circumstances that led to his resignation, and of late of the comments he's making, and which normally affects the top hierarchy of the party.
Would you also admit that the executives of the party, who are actually super delegates as well, are not too happy about the state of affairs in this government currently? And so any candidate who appears to be an anti-establishment candidate would also have the sympathies of those who are not happy about how things are going or the state of affairs now.
Yeah, but you see, even if you are anti-establishment candidates, there are many of them at the moment in the party. If you look at Alan carefully and closely, you could see that at some point he tries to run as anti-establishment, which is against the government. Canada Japan is doing the same. So you have about three people running on the same kind of platform. So who among these three does the superdelegate think that they can win the election for MPP? If they believe that it's Alan or Ken, they are all kind of rebel or insurgent, they will better give it to either Alan or Kennedy than Kennedy Japan, because Kennedy Japan will not go far enough compared to these two.
I say, did you make room for any upsets tomorrow?
No, what I'm telling you is purely based on inference analysis of what we understand the situation to be. But we shouldn't be surprised if there is any surprises between the fourth and fifth. There will be a shock to me if 1, 2, 3 changes. Bawumia,
Alan
and
Kennedy.
That's where the shock would be. Any other movement will not be too much of a surprise to me.
I see. Now, between Alan and Alan and then Dr. Bawumia, you put Bawumia to come up tops and then Alan to follow tomorrow.
Yes.
And any factors that could cause a flip?
Really, if there's a flip between the 1 and 2, then I think that would be a big news. We are all of the view that the superdelegates are heavily favored or favoring Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. If that is not the case, then we'll have a very different race in November.
Musa Dankwa, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you, as always.
It's my pleasure.
Musa Dankwa is Executive Director of Global Info Analytics. They've been doing quite some work and polls ahead of the Super Delegates Conference of the NPP tomorrow to whittle down the numbers of the flag bearer hopefuls from 10 to 5. Out of the 10, which is Joe Gate, Kennedy Japan, Kobneje Japan, Kujop Nsafwapoko, Alan Chamanting, Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, also Freya Koto, former Greek Minister, Boache Jacko, former Energy Minister, Edward Adainimo, Dr. Kofi Konedo Apreko. He is, based on, according to him, his poll and interaction with some of the super delegates across the regions, he's selected 5. That's Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, Alan Chamanting, Kennedy Japan, and then also Freya Koto plus Joe Gate. That's the 5 picks of Global Info Analytics. Now, we'll shortly be connecting with Benefson, who is also the editor-in-chief of the Daily Dispatch newspaper, to seek his thoughts as well ahead of tomorrow. But this is your Election Command Center. We're live as well on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and beyond, also live on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. Your thoughts are welcome. As always, we're live on at 3FM 927 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Share your thoughts with us, and we'll read out to you and to the rest of the world. Ben Efson is joining us. Mr. Efson, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us on Hot Edition.
Good evening, Alfred, and good evening to our listeners.
So, who are your pick for the 5 to go through after tomorrow, out of the 10 who are hoping to lead the party? That's the NPP, this is flag bearer.
Okay, this is not Lutu, but I have 3 sure bankers and 3 numbers that 2 can drop. The sure 3 who will move into November 4th are Bawumia, Kennedy, and Alan. The remaining 2 places could be filled by these 3 persons: Joe Gate, Freya Koto, and Boache Jacko.
I see. And how about Dr. Kofi Konedo Apreko, Adainimo, Kojopoko, Kwabene Japan?
Oh, these are my picks. I don't think that, for November 4th, I've been doing some work towards November 4th. For November 4th, if Alan beats Kennedy to 3rd place, I'll be surprised. But tomorrow, if Alan beats Kennedy, I will not be surprised, because there are about nearly 1,000 delegates. Quite a number of them are elderly. their 50s, 60s, and so on. Alan's disadvantage is that not being in parliament, he has not been able to connect with younger delegates. So somebody who is 30 years now, when Alan Chamartin peaked, he was 15 years. Yes, it is true, Bamia has not been in parliament, but Bamia from 2012 election petition is been going around. And the fact that for 6 years as vice president, he hasn't taken his leave. I mean, he's been planning to contest. So he's been going to functions, conferences, and so on. So for tomorrow, Bamia will win. If Allah beats Kennedy, I won't be surprised because many of them, delegates, older delegates, would have known him from 2007, 15 years back.
See, but there are some MPs as well who are supporting Alan Chamartin. Well, you could say the numbers are not as many as those who have declared the support for openly for
tomorrow we are talking. I'm talking. There are some MPs supporting Alan Chamartin. Tomorrow is nearly 1,000 delegates. November 4th is about 200,000. You can't compare the two at all. An MP has one vote. You know.
True.
So tomorrow, most of the super delegates are elderly people, constituency chairpersons, council of elders. You know, that is tomorrow's majority of the nearly 1,000 delegates. That's the class of people who will be voting.
No, I make this point because one of the strong references of the Bawumia team is that a number of MPs have declared their support for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. So if you make the point that an MP as a delegate has one vote, and that's really it, their influence may not be that extensive, then...
No, you see, I'm not saying that an MP has one vote. What I'm saying is that Alan's advantage tomorrow over, I mean, for the two elections, Bawumia will top. Now, for tomorrow, if Alan beats Canada, Japan, Alan is second, I won't be too surprised because many of the delegates tomorrow are elderly people in their late 40s and 50s. Alan's disadvantage will come up in November 4th when the 200,000 people vote, quite a number of them relatively young. When Alan picked 15 years ago, they were 15 years, 17 years old. Definitely, these three, I'm sure, will move on to November 4th. And the three names I mentioned, it's likely two of the three will join them to make the final five.
But why is Kwabena AJ Japan, and I ask this because I know you've been doing quite some work, you would not select the five in oblivion? Why is Kwabena AJ Japan not part of your five that you've picked?
You see, Kwabena Japan has not been active within the party. I'm telling you that Alan may do well tomorrow because most of them are elderly people who've been involved in party affairs, so they know Alan from long. Kwabena Japan hasn't been to parliament. He was Kufuor's press secretary, and he hasn't been. He's contested one or two times, but he hasn't been active in the party. And this is something that the delegates are going to vote for. On his rounds, I think he's finished. He went to about 10 or so cities, towns in Ghana. So that is one of his disadvantages. These are delegates of the MPP. It's not a national election per se.
Zefsen, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate you as always.
Thank you very much.
Benafson is the editor-in-chief of the Daily Dispatch newspaper and doing some work ahead of the MPP super delegates conference tomorrow. This is your election command center. Make a date with us right from 7 a.m. through to the last ballot is counted, so we know the 5 who are going through out of the 10 who have declared their intentions to lead the NPP as its flag bearer across all media journal platforms here on 3FM 92.7, on TV3, and also on NIA 95.1, Connect FM 97.1, Akoma FM in Kumasi 87.9, 3news.com, also Onia TV, and all across the world on TV3 Ghana on Facebook. Connect with us as always. Some 23 minutes to the top of the hour, 6 p.m. here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Now, the Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, has petitioned the Ministry of Education to within 2 weeks convene a national dialogue on the sustainability of the free senior high school policy. The program, which in its 6th year offers tuition-free and free boarding for students pursuing senior high school education, with the objective to make second cycle education accessible, equitable, and of quality. However, the policy has been dogged by shortcomings, including funding and feeding challenges, with government increasingly coming under pressure to review and diversify its funding sources. The Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, says any further delay could affect the overall objective of the free senior high school program. Thomas Musa is General Secretary of the Ghana National Association of Teachers. We'll hear from him shortly on the issues that they have raised and matters arising here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Stay with us as we come back to that shortly, as ECOWAS continues to mull over a possible intervention in its troubled Niger Republic. Ghana's Deputy Defense Minister says the bloc has the capability to make on the military intervention and take on the junta. Ghana's Deputy Defense Minister Kofi Amankwah has debunked that assertion that ECOWAS lacks the capacity to face the military junta in Niger. His comments come on the back of the West African Regional Bloc continuing to mull the idea of a possible intervention in troubled Niger to reinstate the post-president Mahmoud Bazoum. Some have suggested ECOWAS does not have what it takes to launch a successful assault on Niger. In an interview with 3FM, the defense minister said the bloc is ready, adding that Ghana has enough men to contribute troops.
It is absurd to think that all the countries within the sub-region, the ECOWAS sub-region, if they are to contribute soldiers for an exercise, can only come up with 800. That is it's falsehood. It's a complete falsehood. We have many countries making up ECOWAS. And so if it is the decision that ECOWAS go for an exercise, obviously the countries will contribute. Ghana alone can contribute more than 800. If it's talking about Ghana, I can say yes, if that is the number Ghana is contributing. Fair deal. But to say that ECOWAS do not have the numbers and that it is only 800 that we have, that the ECOWAS sub-region, the standby force has, instead of 50,000, and that we do not have the numbers. I think that he should look at the strength of the various armies in the various countries making up the ECOWAS. And then when he's done that, then he'll be able to tell if ECOWAS indeed can put up the numbers or not. I think that the figure is put out there is not correct, and it can never be correct. I think what I want everybody to understand and appreciate is the fact that military action will be the last resort. Of course, if negotiations, if diplomacy works, if we are able to talk, if cool heads prevail, obviously nobody will go for any military option. But the option becomes necessary when all avenues for dialogue, it's not possible. Then obviously that exercise will work. Yes, they are going to, in their last meeting here in Accra, heads of all the security agencies of the various ECOWAS countries agreed to activate the ECOWAS stand force. So that will be activated. And so if negotiations fail, then maybe that military action will be the last resort.
As the Deputy Defense Minister there, so live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Patronage of HIV self-testing has soared barely a month after the kit was launched. Dr. Stephen Asiado, Programs Manager at the National AIDS Control Program, has disclosed. Dr. Asiado, in an interview, indicated that there were over 33,000 community requests as at the time of the launch, and the number had doubled to over 70,000 requests within the shortest time. He said the program had so far received over 11,000 requests online as distribution was currently ongoing across the country. The oral Ocansey test kit is used orally as a test for HIV status of an individual. The HIV self-test HIVST is one of the newest innovations in a range of strategies aimed at encouraging Ghanaians to get tested to know their status. The kit contains a white spatula-like swab, a test solution and holder to position the test solution, and a manual to guide the usage of the kit. The test is performed by first checking for the expiring date and possible breakage of the kit before opening. Upon opening the kit, one would notice that it has been calibrated with the letters C and T, the C standing for control while the T represents the test. That's what's happening with the HIV self-testing, but let's go straight to Parliament, where the minority in Parliament has rejected claims that the Bank of Ghana building is a security installation. The minority plans to picket at the Central Bank on September 5, 2023 to demand the resignation of the governor of the Central Bank, Dr. Ernest Addison, and his two deputies. However, after a meeting with the police, Accra Regional Police Command issued a statement expressing discomfort with the route selected. According to the police, the route selected by the minority could endanger public safety and order. The police service has therefore asked the minority to change the routes and the destination of the picketing in the interest of the public order. But in an interview with 3FM, the Member of Parliament for the Bako Central Constituency, Mama Yariga, described the police's claims as inaccurate and demands that the police should make itself available for further engagement on the routes that the NDC intends to use going forward. Let's get back to our earlier story, where the Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, is raising fundamental concerns about the free senior high school policy. They say after the TV3 3FM national dialogue on the free senior high school policy 2 days ago, it has become evident that government must admit to a national conversation for the review of the free senior high school policy. Thomas Musa is its General Secretary.
On the children in that particular village. When would have government gotten money to come and build all those things for them? This is what we're talking about. We have the likes of His Excellency Isaac Osei in Ghana. Even if they are not common, we can go to them and appeal to them, and they will come and help. There are some that can even build a whole dormitory. This is what we are talking about. Talking about the education of our children. Right. Let us give people opportunity to help. Let us come together, appreciate the problem, like we did about 24 years ago, and His Excellency came to our aid. We believe that today there are people like that, like His Excellency, okay, who are ready and have resources, and they want to help. Let us give them the opportunity. I repeat, 15 years, we have done 8 years, we are left with 7 years. Can we say at 2030 that nobody has been left behind? Can we say that? And if the people who have been left behind, are we sure that we'll be able to recover? Don't let us forget that we are not human beings. As they are growing, when children grow to a certain stage, you will lose them for life. They won't come to school again. Are we going to organize adult education for them? I don't think so.
Yes, my final two questions to you. Have you written to the Ministry of Education? Yes.
As Thomas Musa, who is General Secretary of the Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, Naneka Mensah Brampa, is here with the latest in business. Naneka
Mensah Brampa here. Alfred, hi. The way you mention my name, Charlie.
Why?
Like
that's not your name.
Naneka Mensah Brampa. My name is Nana Ekia Mensah Brampa. This evening, the way you're rhyming, if you have some money, Momo Mio, let me allow cash out.
Allow it.
Okay, let me just finish reading from my phone then. When Kawawa comes in for sports, continue. Good evening to you, and thank you for joining us on Business on Hot Edition. And coming up this evening, economist Dr. Saad Idris, who says Ghana stands to gain a lot of trade benefits from joining BRICS, an alliance made up of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, representing about 26% of global trade, while encouraging Ghana to join the alliance. He, however, cautioned that no country should join on the basis of geopolitics.
The BRICS alone have 102 billion in trade. So if Ghana is able to join such an organization, Ghana will benefit from that trade exchange within the member nations. Again, right now it controls about 30% of the world GDP. So as the BRICS expands, it will put in extra advantages for member nations. So if the BRICS also comes out with another new currency and decides to trade within them, no one will need the dollar within the member countries at that point in time. The biggest concern that nations are worried, of which Ghana should also be worrying about, is the anti-American view. But I am optimistic that once members join, they will end up having a say. So if the whole anti-American view might be diffused completely.
That was Dr. Saad Idrisu, an economist. The Institute of Climate and Environmental Governance, ICEG, has called for the creation of an energy transition authority to mobilize the necessary resources for large-scale renewable energy projects. Executive Director of ICEG, Hamza Soini, made the call at a stakeholder engagement on climate governance in Accra.
The whole issue about energy transition also has to do with climate finance. You will see African leaders on a daily basis calling on the West to bring money in terms of our efforts at sustainability. But the reality is that most of them do not have the framework to attract such funding. So, but if you have an energy transition authority in Ghana, it positions you to be able to attract the needed funds to pursue your climate agenda. Until that is done, our development partners, private institutions will be quite reluctant to put their funds in the consolidated fund.
And sunflower is a valuable crop with a bright future in Ghana. With government support, Ghana can become a major producer and exporter of sunflower oil and other byproducts. Sunflower is a popular flower known for its beauty and health benefits. But did you know that sunflower is also a valuable crop with a significant economic impact in Ghana? The major industrial consumers of sunflower oil in Ghana are the Canfish Processing and Oil Plant Manufacturing Companies. And in 2017, Ghana exported some $149 million worth canned fish in sunflower oil.
Sunflower business in Ghana is over 152 million US dollars. The import of the oil is about $4 million per annum. And then the export of sunflower products for foreign exchange is about 147 million US dollars. And all these products, every single drop of them is imported. So there's a need for us to look at import substitution.
Meanwhile, according to research from the University of Ghana's Department of Agricultural Economics, it shows that Ghana has the potential to cultivate over 4,000 hectares of sunflower grains. This will produce over 5 million metric tons of sunflower oil worth over $4 million annually.
The demand for sunflower oil has shot up. Ukraine and Russia used to produce more than 59% of the global sunflower oil and cake. And now the growth has come entirely low. It's also in response to climate change, to mitigate the climate change issue that we are facing now.
Right, so the big question is sunflower cultivation a golden opportunity for Ghana? Well, that's a question on our minds, and I'm sure the conversation will continue later on News 360 on Business News. But that's it. My name is Nana Ekuya Mensah Brampa. Log on to 3news.com for more business news updates. The sports team is here. Yao Fusulapi and Bill.
Oh, thank you so much, Naneke Amensa Brampa. Let's head into the sports news this evening here on the Hot Edition. And to begin the news, there's news coming up this weekend because Dreams FC are back in Ghana where they'll be playing their CAF Confederations Cup qualification game. The first leg, they played out an impressive game, and now they still have a chance to qualify to the next stage of the competition. Hopefully, they are able to crack that. Also, Chelsea played tonight in the Premier League. We'll bring you some updates on that as well. But to start with, ahead of CAF Confederations Cup's second leg between Dreams FC and FC Milo, Dreams FC coach Karim Zito has expressed that his team will do anything to win.
I know even 0-0 can qualify me, but all what I need is to qualify. That is what I wanted on Sunday. I don't mind the scores. I only mind me Dream FC qualify.
You heard that from Karim Zito. Now, Mediama SC will also battle Nigerian side Remo Stars on Sunday in the second leg of the CAF Champions League qualifiers. The Mauve and Yellows won the first leg 1-0 in the Cape Coast Sports Stadium. Now to some more stories. And West Ham United coach David Moyes confirmed he watched their prime target Mohamed Kudus as he scored a hat-trick last night against Ludogorets. Kudus will reportedly have a medical in London on Saturday ahead of his switch to the Premier League.
Well, you probably know the answer. He's not our player, so I'm not going to talk about another player at another club while they're not our player. So I've not got much to say, but I did notice that he scored a hat-trick last night, yeah.
That's David Moyes there talking about his prime target, Mohamed Kudus. Kudus is nearing a transfer to the London side. Now, Jurgen Klopp has confirmed that Liverpool have not received any offer for Mohamed Salah, contrary to reports of a proposal from Saudi club Al Ittihad. The Liverpool manager does not see any chance of the fan favourites as Mohamed Salah leaving the club this summer.
So, but it's always a bit difficult to talk about media stories. So because there's nothing to talk about from our point of view. We don't have an offer. Mo Salah is a Liverpool player. Obviously for all the things we do, essential will be. So yeah, there's nothing there. If there would be something, the answer would be no. But that's it pretty much.
So he's not. That's Jurgen Klopp there speaking about Mohamed Salah. Now, Manchester City, I beg your pardon. Manchester City signing Jeremy Doku believes his pace and dribbling abilities will be helpful to Pep Guardiola's side. The Belgian completed a move from Rennes on Thursday to the treble winners.
Yeah, I dribble. My speed. Those are things that I can add to the group. Of course, the group is already a top group with a lot of top players, but I think that I can add that to the group. And my dribbling skills, my speed, and my creativity, those are the things that I can add.
Well, his name is Jeremy Doku and is Manchester City's new signing there. Jeremy Doku has strong Ghanaian roots. His dad actually spends a lot of time in Ghana. But here are the Premier League fixtures ahead of this weekend, and Chelsea will take on Luton Town. That game is tonight at 7 p.m. and then Arsenal will face Fulham. Manchester United will take on Nottingham Forest. Newcastle United will also face Liverpool Football Club. It's the highlights of this weekend though. The big game is Newcastle United who will take on Liverpool. That game will be played at the St. James's Park. Huge game, and it would have huge ramifications on who on the table. I mean, it's just early days yet, but still Newcastle United and Liverpool will be a big game coming up. And Sheffield United will also take on Manchester City in the Premier League. My name is Yao Fusulabi. That's all the sports. Akofa standing by with entertainment.
Thank you very much, Yao, for all that updates in the world of sports. It's now time to bring you up to speed with happenings in the world of arts and entertainment. To begin with, award-winning reggae dancehall star Stonebwoy, while speaking on 3 Entertainment's X Spaces last night, mentioned that Ghanaian bankrollers do not understand the music business to invest in it. He also noted that the big men we see around, most musicians, are there for the fun of it.
The highest levels there be, we are willing and are continuing to be able to hire and employ as and when we can. Because guess what? This is also business. Even government have to go and take loans. Government need financiers. And I tell you that this is that part of the situation where we don't have, you know what I'm saying? Like, Ghanaians don't really have support financially, because I believe that the understanding is not convincing enough for bankrollers be able to hire all these arms and all these people that make things work at the biggest level. These are our senior men that have money that you guys see around us. I can tell you it's mostly for the fun of it. What business do they have to do with us? They are businessmen in their regards, real estate gurus, oil gurus. It's just nice to have an artist around us, and when they even qualify to be around once and once, you know, they may do you a good here and there. But what I'm telling you vividly and point blank is that it is not convincing enough to them to be able to put their monies behind the business. So we need some of them to tell us, look, I have one of them tell me some of the things that I'm surprised to even hear. Some of them don't really have an idea about how, some of them don't even have the passion. They only see the, you know, the fun part of it, and hey, come, I'm telling you point blank.
Moving on, music producer and executive Jam Master Jay believes the creative space needs a consented plan and heavy investment to keep the industry running. Speaking on TV3 New Day earlier, he added that there has to be intentionality to push the Ghanaian identity.
The highest levels there be, we are willing and are continuing to be able to.
Our worry is we want more, or we want equal share. You don't have an equal share when you don't even know what is behind the wheel that's keeping the whole thing spinning.
What is it?
It's money.
It's money.
It's money. That thing you are seeing there that's happening in the world, it's not by chance. It's only we as Ghanaians who wait for things to happen to us. Nothing happens by chance. Everything is orchestrated. Everything is intentionally planned. It's an agenda.
Yeah.
But we, the usual side of we, everything should just come by gift. Oh, we deserve it. It's ours. It's ours. And we always just put certain kinds of narratives out there. Bella, there has to be a conscious plan that, listen, we want to push the Ghanaian identity, which is from looks, food, dressing, culture, all of that. How do we intend doing this? We've never gotten it right. Anytime you see us doing anything right, it's by luck. It wasn't intentional, it wasn't planned. So we can't even share the blueprint. See, 10, 15 years ago, when the Foris were ruling, if we knew what they were doing right, we should be able to replicate that blueprint as of now. But back again, because it was luck, we can't hold it.
And you heard the music producer and executive Jam Master Jay. And that's all the entertainment news here on Hot Edition, powered by 3 Entertainment. My name is Akofa. Thanks for your time, and thanks for joining us on Hot Edition. On behalf of Alfred and the production team, for more news, log on to 3news.com. The 3FM Drive team continues.